Boom! We're back.
We're back.
It's Wednesday. I think Wednesday's becoming our new day over the summer because, you know what, who gives a shit? It's the summer. But when the season comes in, I think we're going to get back stuck into Monday Night Ball, review the week behind, look at the week ahead, any midweek football, this, that, and the other. But at the moment, it's the summer. We can chill out a little bit more and see what's happening throughout the week. And as always, there's a shitload going on. Now, Jimmy's not here with us tonight. We were going to look at players who are listed as midfielders who are really forwards and do that kind of frontman analysis of the Prem. But Jimmy is stuck on a train somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Limerick Junction, the coldest place in Ireland. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to have a quick League of Ireland update because there's been some moves and shakes. We're going to look at... I feel like this is just a Gary-themed podcast because we're going to talk League of Ireland. We're going to talk about the players that give Gary the biggest chub every time he's drafting, which is new players into the league that nobody's ever heard of. And then, obviously, we're going to go back into Gary's dark and dirty little corner of the internet when we're going to talk about Spurs and Bournemouth tonight and look at the players you shouldn't draft, and maybe the outside chances wildcards. Think we're all on track? We're fair enough with that?
I think
happy?
so.
Gary, happy? We're good. Right. Gary,
we're good.
Talk to me about this legend that is Damien Duff.
Damien. Well, first of all, we're not sorry to hear that Jimmy's in the coldest place in the world. He can play with his numbers while we talk proper football tonight. But yeah, League of Ireland. So Damien Duff is gone. He is gone from Shelbourne. He quit on Sunday. And now, and I know there's a couple of rumours of what we might be going on. And John, we can get into that in a few minutes. But this was a shock. This was a big shock at the weekend. So, for those of us who weren't in the know, Duff has been Shelbourne manager for around 3 years at the moment. Led them to an FAI Cup final where they did get hockeyed, but they still led them to an FAI Cup final. Won the league last year where nobody thought that they were doing, on a par with the Leicester Premier League. In relative terms, because obviously it's League of Ireland. But over the last couple of weeks, he's just been a little bit more erratic than he normally is, which is saying a lot for Damien Duff.
I was just going to say, he's a very emotional manager. As a player, he was very chill. As a player,
he was super
chill. But as a manager, he's a bit of a mad bitch. Like, I've seen reports down the last 2 years of him question players' professionalism, subbing a fella off because he was... Or not subbing on a fella because he was like 2 minutes late. All these little... Do you know what it is? He expects players to match his standard, which I think is fair enough.
It is. You got to know who you're dealing with. I mean, he's not managing a Premier League club. He is managing a League of Ireland club who have, over the last 15 years, have not been at the top table because they've been in the first division, etc. And he came out after Shelbourne were beaten by Derry City last Friday. He came out and he said, I prepared for this. I went for my little siesta. I had my food early. I was well prepped. I knew I was ready for this. Can I say the same thing about all my players? I don't think so. Or I can't be sure, or something along those lines. And when you come out in the press like that, and this is not something that's happened, like he's been erratic for a lot of the season. Shelbourne haven't hit the heights that they did last year. I don't think anyone expected them to be fair, because last season was probably a bit of a fluke. But we've probably all seen the picture of him standing with his trench coat on a mound at Dalymount Park watching Shelbourne.
I'm not going to lie, that was epic.
It was great. It was great to see, and it was like, hey, League of Ireland, FAI, sort your shit out.
Do you know what it was? That gave extreme Junior B manager sent to the car park vibes, not the top table of professional football in the country. That is shit you would see when I'm managing my team on a Sunday morning when all the lads are hungover and I'm mouthing at a ref because he's only standing in the centre fucking circle. Yeah. That's what that looked like. Me with my trench coat up on the hill going, lads, can you still see me?
But he did it because he was suspended. He had been suspended from the dugout for that game. So he said, feck it, I'm just going to stand on the side of the pitch and watch it. Right?
Here, Arsene Wenger did it a few years ago. When he
did.
Sent off, remember? He went up and did
He went up and he stood. He did. He stood on top of
it.
With the hand.
I think that was much bolder than what Damien Duff did. You know what? He was like, he wasn't in the grounds technically, was he? Where he was sending.
No.
Yeah,
No,
that's the
it was a
thing.
move that kind of overlooked the ground, but you
like
could see.
bang,
Yeah. The previous week, when Shells beat my club St. Pat's in Richmond Park, after the game, he was on the pitch and knelt down in front of the Shells fans, which sent the home fans into raptures. Like, he is controversial to a point where he, outside of Shelburne, a lot of the fans hated him. He was outspoken. He was very, very controversial. He didn't give a shit.
Good.
He had. No, I'm not dissing him here. He had massive rows with Stephen Bradley, the manager of Shamrock Rovers. They were lifelong friends. Now they're not, because they've had beef between the two of them. But for him to come out and question his players the way he did, and then he did that on the Friday after the defeat, and then come out on the Sunday and quit the way he quit. So if anyone is unsure of the way he quit, what happened was he turned up for training on Sunday morning, met the players, said his goodbyes. 15 minutes later, he was gone. The Shelburne club the Shelburne management didn't want to actually, make too much of a noise about it, because they had a game on the Monday down in Waterford. They obviously have their Champions League games coming up in about 2 weeks' time. Somebody in the media got news of this, rang Damien Duff, asked him for his opinion on what's going on, and Duff said, "Yeah, I've quit." He didn't give his club a chance to actually get ahead of this story. He quit his club when they're going into a Champions League qualifying round. While I respected him as a manager, and I think he's done great things for the League of Ireland, he bottled this.
I'm going to disagree with you heavily.
So he bottled this for a couple of reasons, right? Number one, yes, they've had a shit season. That's fine in comparison to last season. He hasn't really had to deal with any major adversity in the job so far. This was the first real tough test. He walked away. He did it when he was part of the management team under Stephen Kenny, when Kenny was Ireland manager. That's the first thing. The way he did it, he went and he met his players at a training session and then walked off. That's not professional. That's the second thing. And the third thing is the timing of it as well. He owed Shelburne at least another month. He owed them getting. They gave him a shot at management when nobody else did. He got them into the Champions League. He should have stuck around for at least the first round of the Champions League ties. He should have stuck around.
No way he was getting sacked, was there? Especially
he
was never getting sacked. He was no. He had.
This is where I'm going to disagree with you, right? He could have taken a job in England straight off the pocket when he retired. He could have done what a lot of ex-players have done, taken a coaching job, an assistant manager job, not a manager job.
He did. He took it at Ireland. He took it with the Ireland job.
Yeah, he was a coach.
So he took a coaching job at international level.
But he decided to manage in the League of Ireland because he's always been passionate about League of Ireland football, wants to increase the standard. As you said, brought an unfancy team into a Champions League qualifying round. He owes that club fuck all, in my opinion. I think if he's a passionate sort, but I think there must be more behind the scenes in that. There has to be, because you don't just rock up on a Sunday morning in a mood. Yeah. Actually, it sounds like something I'd fucking do. I'd be wound up with my players and go, do you know what? Fuck all you people, I'm fucking done.
Yeah, I think this is down to the level of professionalism in League of Ireland. It just doesn't match the standard that he's used to. You've got to remember this lad played Champions League football, won Premier League titles, played for several Premier League clubs, established internationally. He's a centurion with Ireland. So he's used to top levels of professionalism that he may not be, probably hasn't been experiencing at a League of Ireland level.
Yeah, but
that's fair enough. But he knew what he was.
And you're getting pushback. That's the problem.
But he knew what he was getting into. Now, I won't disagree with you, John. He has brought he's brought a renewed interest into League of Ireland.
Major.
All right. The viewership in League of Ireland hasn't been there since he's come in. He's brought Shelburne to unprecedented levels of success over the last couple of seasons. But he owed Shelburne the best opportunity to go as far as they could in Champions League. He's deprived them of that. Shelburne as a club were better as a club and as a team with Damien Duff as manager. Him gone has diminished that. They will not go as far as they would have done with him.
I'd agree with
and
that.
That's where
I would agree with that, but I do think there's more behind
There's a lot more going on. To be honest with you, we probably will never know the full story because these sort of things never.
However,
But
it looks like he's.
it was a big shock this week.
It looks like an interesting movie is lined up though, because it looks like he's about to be snapped up into a new job post haste.
Yeah,
Dean, have you seen this?
I have not seen this.
Damien Duff is going to probably be a number 2 in the Premier League next season. So Brentford are obviously manager list right now. Now Brentford in their last 3 manager hires have actually hired from within. Thomas Frank included. He was assistant manager to the manager before him, and this will be the third or fourth time they've hired back-to-back internally. Keith Andrews is set to be the new manager of Brentford, and it looks like Damien Duff is going to be his number 2 there.
Yeah. Keith Andrews was set-piece coach last season, if I'm correct.
First team coach, yeah, but he's been there for a couple of years as well.
Yeah. To be fair, he's done a really good job and is well respected. So
very highly rated by all accounts. I don't see it myself personally. I'm willing to be wrong. As a player, he was
average.
Bordering on average is as good as I would say mediocre to average at best.
Yeah, but he seems well respected in the club. Brentford, as you say, have a history of hiring from within. It'll be interesting to see how he makes that transition from first team coach into management. I don't see it either, but
it's going to be interesting.
Anything else? I hope Duff goes because him in the Premier League, that'll be box office.
Oh yeah, I think if 6 months in, Andrews gets sacked, he gets interim caretaker, gets the job by default because he does a 2 or 3 game run, and now we've got Spiky Duffer in the Prem. I'm here for that.
Oh well, can you imagine? Right, Brentford have just been beaten by Sunderland. 2 or 3-0 live on Sky Sports. Roy Keane is ripping the head off them, and then Duffer comes on, and you have the 2 of them going at each other live on Sky.
Honestly, box
office. I paid my Sky subscription just to see that.
Now, I have one for you. The League of Ireland news I have. Dean, you will be interested in knowing this because he's actually from our little neck of the woods. Treaty United have sold a footballer to Brighton. Brighton are known for these left field, out of the pocket signings. And at the tender age of 18 years old, Michael Dyke from Limerick City, Doyle, has just signed for Brighton. This is only today. It's only in the last 2 hours. So when he was 14, 15, he was playing for Cardiff and Celtic. 15 years of age, he was playing for Treaty. Was it First Division Cup last year? Saved a couple of pens on the way through. I'm not going to lie to you, lads. I've seen him. He's the real fucking deal. If you look at him, you're not looking at an 18-year-old. That this boy is an 18-year-old fucking man. He's a unit.
Yeah. Where does he play?
Keeper.
But didn't I see that he only signed for Treaty last year? So did Treaty get a transfer fee for him?
Yeah, undisclosed fee. So we're not going to. We're probably going to. That'll get. Do you know what? That'll happen. He's Brighton Academy this year. Maybe gets on the bench. Maybe gets a League Cup game or 2 this season. Who knows? Depending on what happens with their keeper situation with Brighton, you'd never know with them. He could be the kind where they sell for Bruggen after they've seen him in 4 or 5 training sessions and gone, fuck it, let's have it. More than likely, he's 2 years and a couple of loan deals away from getting any minutes. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does a year with the academy, then does a loan to League One or Championship in the next season. But I will be saying this straight up and now. Michael Dyke is one to watch. Treaty, from playing for Cardiff in the space of 3 years to go from Cardiff to Brighton. That's the level of goalkeeper we're talking about. That's after moving from Limerick First Division. Now, Limerick First Division.
What's up with Ireland being able to produce really, really high quality goalkeepers?
I'm going to say it's
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. That was, in hindsight, it's kind of a silly question. Yeah, it's kind of a stupid question there, Gary. Go on.
I'll say it straight out. I think he's one to keep an eye on. I think if he does decent year there first year, find his feet and his level, maybe gets a loan deal to the Championship next year. Like Kelleher's first choice here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But
Kelleher's first choice is going to be Bazunu, Travers.
Yeah, but we could be looking at this. We could be looking at this lad kicking off the goalkeeper rush in 2 or 3 years' time.
That's what I'm saying. He's only 18. Keepers don't mature to their mid-20s. Yeah. I reckon. Watch this space. He's one to watch in the next few years. But having said that, as a player who's newly entering the Premier League, Gary, what happens every year with you in draft? Dean, you're not as bad for this, right? Dean, you normally go, do they play for Man United? Great, I'll pick them. Or is his name Fabian Schär and I'll pick him? But Gary gets a little teeny-tiny erection every time a player signs from Spain, Germany, Portugal and enters the Premier League. And he goes, yeah, I'm having me a slice of that on draft night.
Yeah. I have a tendency to do this. I actually can't remember who I've drafted over the last couple of years, but you're absolutely right, John. I have a tendency to look at named, players who we know who they are and are coming into the Premier League. But so far this transfer window, there's been some big names come in so far, so I'm really looking forward to draft night.
I have a few. I'm going to list out a few, right? Because I put together a little cheat sheet earlier on. And guess what? There will be an article in the near future. Where's it going to be? StatrCast.com. But yeah, there's a couple of standouts for me. I'm going to start with my personal favorite, the guy who is going to be picked up very late in drafts, and I think he's going to be your sleeper pick of the season. Any guesses who?
And he's only just been signed, is it? It's not Matthew Tell, is it?
Fuck that guy. No, he's on it. He came in. I'm not counting him as new. He's been there for the last 6 months alone and done a whole bag of nout. The one I'm talking about is Marcus Edwards. He is coming into Burnley. They bought him for 8.4 million quid from Sporting. He was right up their front three for the last 2 or 3 years. He knows English football. He's ex-Spurs Academy. 52% pass success rate, wins 25% of his aerial duels. He's a right winger, might I add. Only got 1 goal and 2 assists last year, but had what was this? Yes, sorry. It was dribbling was actually 52%. His pass completion rate was 83%. Like, the boy can play. I know he's coming from Portugal. He had a great couple of years over there. But as someone who's going to be picked, in the subsection of a draft for a newly promoted team, he's coming from a team playing Champions League football. He's coming from a team at the top of the league, and he's going to go and play for Burnley.
That sounds like the sort of pick that if you get right, you're on a winner there. They're the sort of picks that win you your draft league.
Yeah, he's playing for Burnley, newly promoted, and people are not going to look at players there. But as I said, Sporting, he knows English football from being a Spurs Academy player. He's quick. He's a dribbling type. He'll be exciting to watch for a team of Burnley standard. Now, don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. He's not a world beater. He's good. Yeah. He's functional. He could and probably should be playing for a team above Burnley's level. But if we're talking 12th, 13th, 14th round pick, when you're looking at and going, I need guys who are going to start and who are going to contribute, he will be one of the first ones I think is worth looking at as those undercover sleeper agent players. 8.5 million for Burnley. He starts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely will start. Yeah.
And a 25% of success rate in the air says he not shy of a header or two. And in the Premier League, where they play more balls in the air than they traditionally would in the Portuguese league, there's a couple of metrics there that are worthwhile to keep an eye out with that guy during the summer. So Marcus Edwards is going to be my
I think the things that you look at there is, will he start? He probably will, because coming from Champions League, as you say, to a lower level of team, albeit a higher level of league. If he's not shy in the air and he's not shy of a tackle, that's going to help him at Burnley. because they're going to be on the back foot more than anything else. So there's definitely points to be picked up there. And as you say,
he's a dribbler as well, so he's going to do a lot of. He's going to have a lot of crosses, a lot of dribbles, a lot of aerial duels. One of the comments there in on the YouTube: functional, nailed on, shite team, immediate pick. Fact. I'm saying that now. I'm starting with my heavy hit, like, because I know, Gary, you're going to want to talk about Marcelli and Verts and who cares. This is the one to keep the eye out on. Okay, just getting it out.
Yeah, I'm all about those lower league players, but you've mentioned them, so we might as well talk about them. The new British record signing, well, probably will be if he meets all of the add-ons. Florian Wirtz. The new shiny German toy for the American lads at Liverpool. Like, if anyone hasn't seen this lad in Germany, this lad is the real deal. He's 22, and Liverpool have just gone out and splashed 100 million on him.
Do you think he would justify a first-round pick?
No.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what?
I won't be surprised on second round just because of the flash.
Yeah.
And he is obviously going to be starting for the league champions for that.
I have a rule.
But it's like do you have the balls to bring in a world record, like a record signing, but has no experience in the Premier League, or do you play it safe and go for,
Yeah. I'll put my neck out on this one, Dean. If I get a low draft pick in the first round, so if I'm 9th in the first round draft, I'm taking Wirtz.
You're an idiot.
I'm taking him at number. If I'm number 9 or lower and he's still on the board, I'm taking him. Right?
He's a third round pick at best.
No, he's not. He's absolutely not. I've actually run some numbers on this one because Jimmy's not here. I've decided to do some numbers this week.
I'm going to tell you briefly why you're wrong straight after. So go on, hit me with your numbers.
So I've had a look at Wirtz versus Bruno, when Bruno finished 4th overall last year's points for points scored. Go on, John. Throw your eyes up to heaven. All you like.
Fucking Liverpool fans. Let's take the guy from the German league where they walk around versus Bruno, because Bruno's the only player that Liverpool fans can fucking bitch about. But carry on. Mind your own house, like.
I don't even know how to respond to that. But if you look at the numbers that he's put up in Germany, right, which is the closest European league to the Premier League, let's just call it as it is, he has more goals and the same amount of assists as Bruno. Bruno scored 8 last season, had 12 assists. Wirtz had 10 and 12. He has not as many key passes, but that's because he actually dribbles more than he passes. That's his style of play. And if you put him into the Liverpool attack, that's going to suit him more than being a passer. Doesn't like a tackle near as much as Bruno. Bruno has a higher tackle rate, but then Bruno does get more red cards and yellow cards than he does. So when you balance everything out, the expectation would be, if you were to take Wirtz's numbers from last season in Germany, albeit in Germany, and if you were to apply something like a 10% reduction in his numbers, he finishes top 10. He finishes top 10 points scored.
He will not finish top 10 points scored, and I will
next season.
Want to bet on that?
Yeah.
Want to bet on it? Dean, witness this? 20 quid?
20 quid. This is the second bet, by the way, we have. We've got another bet.
I was just thinking, yeah.
There's another.
What was the other one? I can't remember. We're going to need
it was. I had said Everton would finish above United next season. That's what it was.
Oh, that's also fucking stupid. I can't wait to get my 40 quid off you.
But this coming from a lad who didn't believe me that City would finish 4th last season. Now I know they finished 3rd. I know they finished 3rd, but still. So yeah, Wirtz is the real deal. He absolutely is the real deal. He is the long-term replacement for Salah at Liverpool. Everything is going to be going through him in the attack. He will play 32, 33, 34 games in a season. And you've also got to remember that Salah is going to miss probably 4 games in January because of the Africa Cup of Nations. So this lad he's gone to the league. You be all of this, all you like.
I will, because he's a German player that Bayern Munich had no interest in purchasing.
They had all the interest in purchasing. They're just cheap ass fuckers who wouldn't pay 100 million.
because he's not.
Come on, John. Tell me how Alex Iwobi is better than Florian Wirtz. Come on, show us your hard on for Alex Iwobi.
No, Mitrovic. It's Mitrovic.
I do love Alex Iwobi. I do love Mitrovic, but I'm not that stupid. Now, the reason why he's going to fail, there is yet to be a player of that kind of money who has succeeded in any team. Now, if we just look at the Premier League alone, I actually have the most expensive signings of all time. And you're going to just give Dean and Gary, give me flop or hit or miss. Were they a hit? Were they a miss? And you can tell me if any of them at all have been a success. At the back, both joint 10th, Anthony and Darwin.
Flops.
Yeah.
Flops. Next up, Mykhailo Mudryk.
Keep going.
Just keep going. Next, Paul Pogba. Next up after Paul Pogba, Romelu Lukaku.
Yeah.
You can't say he was a flop. Now he was at United
for a 90 million transfer. He was a flop.
Hang on, yeah, you're looking at one club at the time. He was decent when he was at Everton,
which is why they sold him
for money.
For big money, and then he was a flop. So anybody that's the point here is that when they're talking about this kind of money, they've all been flops. After Romelu, actually, it's next up again is also Romelu. He's there twice.
So good he's there twice.
Then we have Jack Grealish.
Yeah. Was good for his first season at City. To be fair.
I mean, underperformed, I wouldn't say flop.
Yeah.
He's been good in 1 of 5 seasons he's been there. That's flop territory. For 100 million?
Fair.
If that was a 30 million transfer, fine. The only one, there's one here, maybe 2 that I would say at the prices are worth their money. And we're into the top 4 now. It is Declan Rice.
Oh, that's a hit. That's fair enough.
That's a hit. Enzo and Caicedo are the next 2.
Which are both hits, to be fair. They have Enzo had a very, very good season last season.
He had a very good half of the season.
Well, yeah, fine, but you're probably just sore because you dropped him as soon as he got good. But
so of those 10 players, we're going to say 1 hit, 1 maybe, and the rest are duds.
That's okay, but I'm going to hit you with this then, right? So how many of those players came from Germany, first of all? Right? It does matter because I'm going to hit you with some names that have come from Germany, and you can tell me whether they're hits or misses.
I like how this is going. This is just.
I love this. Right. Let's start with Michael Ballack.
Yeah, he was all right. Yeah,
he was a hit. Sammy Hupia.
Oh, are we just doing the highlight tour of German footballers? Because we can list off plenty other shrapnel.
Well, Sammy Hupia was Finnish, so no. He came from the German league, though. Yeah. So no, it's not point. No, it's not pointless. Was he a hit or was he?
Is this like the Anthony Niemi moment?
Javi Alonso was a hit. Leroy Sané was a hit.
Yeah.
Sané was a hit at City. Whatever way you spin it, he was a hit. Gundogan came from Dortmund. Was a hit. So you're not comparing apples and apples with John. You're looking at players on a value level.
Talk about other players who came out of the German league over to. We can also list Jadon Sancho. You can split your apples and oranges whatever way you want here, but either way,
there are plenty of players who have come from Germany who have been super successful.
So Liverpool will play him on the left and Salah on the right, correct? And
no, I think they'll play him as a false 9. I think he plays in the Firmino role.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's where he'll play. Now, it all depends on how Liverpool do their business up front, because the latest rumour is that Alexander Isak to Liverpool is very much on the table. If that happens, all bets are off. But it's likely he'll play as the false 9. He's very comfortable playing that false 9, playing up front or playing out right, where he'll probably will when Salah goes to the Cup of Nations.
I'm saying if you're going to be drafting a player from Liverpool, new signings next year, it's not Wirtz, it's Frimpong. Wirtz will be grand. I don't think he's a top 10 player next year. That's just my opinion. Frimpong is, as a fantasy defender, gold.
No, he's not. He's really not, and we can get into that because I've also run some numbers on Frimpong. Frimpong, if you look at the numbers, doesn't stack up against Kirkes. He has less tackles, he has less aerial duels. Fair enough, he has more goals and assists. But as we spoke about with Jimmy a few weeks ago, our defenders don't just rely on goals and assists. They do get rewarded for doing the dirty shit. Frimpong doesn't do that. He's also coming in and competing with Conor Bradley. He's not going to play 30, 35 games in the season.
It's not competition.
It's competition. It's competition. But we won't. I'm just
going to screw with him now. It's fun.
But we're not going to dwell on that too much because this is actually a nice segue into Gary's Voyeur Corner.
We're going to get to that because there's more players I want to look at.
Okay, sorry.
Because I know we have City who've signed Reiners from AC. His numbers are fucking.
He looks the real deal.
Now he's one I'm saying. You're looking at, if you get as far as third round draft and he's still on the table,
you're taking
the only thing that will hinder him,
Rodri,
Pep Roulette.
Yeah,
because I think he goes in alongside Rodri as the second of their trio. I think the idea there. This is me just thinking out loud and just. So correct me when I'm wrong, but I think he'll slip in alongside Rodri, and that'll allow Phil Foden to play free as more of a floaty 10, so that he can be that link between the front three.
Yeah.
And then you'll have Shirky one side, Marmoush the other, and Haaland through the middle,
and the big Viking up front. Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. The only thing I would say is I think that's your formation for your big games. That's your formation for, anyone in the top six and the Manchester derby. You still have Kovacic and you still have Gundogan in there, who will rotate in and out for your lower games. For your games against the Leeds, the Sunderlands, the Wolves, etc., just to keep those two boys fresh. So I don't think you're going to get more than 15 games with the two of them playing side by side.
Well, do you want to hear some of his numbers? Because that's what we do here. Over at
StatrCast.com.
Thank you. I can't be doing this every week. I need to pass the parcel. But some of the numbers, right? 87% pass completion. We're looking at he did average of. No, that can't be right. Never mind. We're going to leave that stat alone. But essentially, he does a lot of key passes. We're looking at 131 progressive dribbles last season. Like, for a fella who's essentially a deeper type midfielder, he progresses the ball up the pitch. Maybe not draft gold, but in terms of football gold, I think he could be the type of player that him and Rodri in a base gives you more reason to look at their other new signing, Ryan Shirky, who will be alleviated from defensive duties and probably give the likes of a Phil Foden a platform. So if you're looking at City players, I think the idea of being able to remember, Phil Foden was around one pick last year just because of the season before. He had a shocker last year, but I think having that base behind him will allow him to be free to play his best football next year.
But does Foden play? Because Cherky will play in a similar role to Foden. So again, it's this Pep Roulette. Is Cherky going to be a problem with
Cherky one side, Marmoush the other, Haaland middle, and then Reiners, Rodri with Foden as your floaty?
I don't know if Foden gets much game time next season.
Who?
I think he might have a slow season to start, Foden, and because the way Pep is, he's pretty ruthless. One bad season, I think he'd be very much like you. He has to earn his spot again. So I don't. Maybe he might end up starting the last 25 games of the season, but I think for the first 7 or 8, it'll be very much a case of Pep Roulette, as I said, with Phil Foden, and he will start the old game on the bench.
Yeah, my logic is Gundogan is obviously aging out. Kevin De Bruyne isn't there anymore.
Gundogan's gone. Is he staying?
He's still there at the moment.
Still there.
He's there for now.
I think Pep say that he's basically. I don't know. Maybe I misread.
He's happy to keep him, but he'd also like to work with a smaller squad, aka get gone.
But Gundogan gone, Silva's probably going to be gone as well.
Silva's been named the cap. Actually, oh fuck me! I can't believe we haven't talked about this. Pep Guardiola's interview with the Club World Cup about his captaincy. So this is the first time in Pep's career where he's actually named his captains. What he's done previously was he's allowed the team to vote, But last year, Kyle Walker was named as the captain, and let's say Pep was not overtly impressed about that. So when he left in January after requesting a transfer as the Man City captain, basically, essentially, his attitude in the dressing room as a leader was put as part of the blame of how shitty of a year they had, because they had nobody actually as senior management. So he went, right, this year, here's my 4 captains, and whichever one of these on a pitch on a given day is going to be wearing the band. That was Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, Haaland, and Ruben Diaz.
Haaland is a strange one. Haaland's a strange choice.
10-year contract and senior player. He referenced this and thing. I know he's young, but he's the future. And if he's going to learn how to be a leader, these are the people he needs to learn it off of. So he'll be like 4th of the 4.
Yeah, but there's still a possibility where he's the only one of the 4 on a pitch.
Yep.
Look, maybe he look, obviously there's things that we don't see because we only see what he does on a pitch and not in the background or whatnot. So maybe he is
yeah, you see him on TV though, like he really gets in like the other teams' faces as well. Like, you know, he's quite temperamental, and you know, you like in that kind of sense, he always remind you of like Roy Keane. Like, you know, one of the other players got into a bit of a spat with the other team. You know, he'd come over like, and there's always highlights of him with the big Viking battle face on. So I'd say maybe that's kind of an element of that as well. That I think that would feed into the dressing room as well. I think that he would be probably a bit of a.
He's very popular.
He'd be able to really get the team, you know, wound up in the dressing room, like, you know, like really get the blood pumping to go out into the pitch to kind of get that kind of vibe.
He's like the future. Like, you're putting him in behind Bernardo Silva, Ruben Diaz, and Ilkay Gundogan, and go, right, learn the role of leadership from these boys, but you're already a senior figure in the dressing room. You're on a 10-year lifer contract. You're earning the big bucks. You're the future.
His dad was captain as well, as far as I remember, at City.
Yeah.
So
at one point, yeah.
I think he might have been at one point, so he obviously he has that to lean on. But yeah, probably. You know what? It probably is a good choice. I just don't see it, and I'm old school in my view on who should be captain. It should be somebody either centre back or central midfield because they can see everything that's going on ahead of them. That's just my view. But
fair.
Hey, I'm not Pep Guardiola.
I also find it strange when they make goalkeepers captain sometimes, because like you're saying, they're like just kind of stuck in a small section of the pitch, like how are they going to communicate with the players?
The goalkeeper is a perfect captain for me. They see out the whole pitch. They can watch everything. Personality-wise, they're generally a bit more level than most footballers, despite the fact they're also a bit fucking tapped in their own right. But look at the captains who have been goalkeepers down the years, the likes of Emmanuel Neuer, Iker Casillas, Victor Valdez, Gianluigi Buffon, Oliver Kahn, Peter Schmeichel. You know, we're talking.
I suppose the captaincy extends, you know, beyond the football pitch as well. But like you said, it goes into training at home, you know, media kind of stuff like that. So yeah.
Fair. There's 3 other players I want to quickly highlight before we move on to the GVC. I'm just going to quickly.
Look, we're just going to run with that.
The GVC and see how long it takes to see what it means. But right, quickly, I have 2 Brighton do what Brighton do. So I obviously referenced Mikey Dykey earlier on, but they also spent 30 million quid on an 18-year-old from Olympiacos, Kostulas. He fast. And in every game that you play at the moment, like Football Manager, EAFC or whatever, he is one of the like 10 highlighted key high potential players. So he's been basically trigged and tagged from a scout for a very long time. He's very fucking raw. So maybe one to just keep an eye on for if Welbeck gets injured and suddenly he gets 1 or 2 games and it's like, okay, we're on to something.
Yeah, Brighton have a tendency, though, to do this with players like that. Like Adringa, for example, he came in quite raw and did reasonably well. Yep. Again, late round pick, something to consider, absolutely.
For 30 million, he's not going into the reserves, let's say.
No.
He's straight in and around that team. Probably the Welbeck successor for them, maybe. Let's see. But the one that I think is coming into play, they signed him from Hellas Verona. He's 11 million quid. He's 21 years of age. Diogo Coppola. So the thing is here, Brighton centre-backs are old. Brighton centre-backs are old. They've got the likes of Lewis Dunk. They're all plus 30s. This is a big beast of a bastard. He a big boy, and he's going to essentially the idea there is he is the youth, because like you look at the other centre backs, it is the likes of Lewis Dunks and etc. They're on the other side of 30, so they do need to age down that centre back line over time. So 11 million, Hellas Verona, Diogo Coppola, I would be saying one to keep an eye on throughout pre-season to see what kind of minutes he gets in the team, and if it looks like he's in and around that first team come draft night, one of those Brighton centre backs, whether it's Van Hecke or Lewis Dunk, is going to be on the loose end for him.
Yeah,
Lewis Dunk is a fantasy veteran. I feel like we all kind of had him at one point in fantasy football.
And the last player I want to reference is Luka Vuskovic, Spurs new signing, and this is why I wanted to leave him last, because we're going to transition across to the GVC. So Luka Vuskovic, 9.3 million, French under 21s international, playing Westerlo in the Belgian the Juniper Pro League. Hard to say, but he's fucking massive. Picture Jan Vertonghen P2 is the vibe here. Like if you look at him, Spurs centre back. Yep, Spurs are obviously light at centre back, so he's even at that price of shy of 10 million. He's coming in to be third choice probably already, straight out of the pocket.
6'4". Jesus Christ,
he's a beast.
That's very much Nathan Collins' mould, though. I mean, and that's Thomas Frank. That's the sort of defender that Thomas Frank likes. So if he does well again, similar to what you said about the Brighton lad, if he does well in pre-season,
well, he scored 7 goals last season,
and he's a centre back.
I know it's the Belgian league, but we're talking centre back.
What's his name again? I'll put him on my draft sheet.
Luka Vuskovic. So he played 28 games last season, 86% pass completion rate, 7 goals, 2 assists, and the highest percentage of aerial duels won at 64%.
Nothing wrong with that.
They're looking for the subs when you're drafting subs.
So again,
Tarkowski.
There's a couple of these lads that I think you'd want to keep an eye at during the preseason, see where they're in around the squads, and if someone like him looks like, because let's say Romero goes, if they don't go and buy Nathan Collins, they've got a big raw boy sitting there ready to go. But I do still think, actually on the Nathan Collins one, do you remember we said we got a little rinsing over this over on TikTok a few weeks ago, right? And now it looks like it's going to happen. So it's like, guess what? We're on the right track. Go fuck yourselves, TikTok people. We knew what we were talking about. Thomas Frank was always going to look at Nathan Collins. And on that point, it's time to dim your lights, bust out the lotion, pull out the tissues, and enter Gary's Boyer corner.
Bust out the lotion. Oh, Jesus.
Anyway,
you couldn't even keep it classy, John, could you? You couldn't even keep it.
Well, it's classy. You want classy?
No. Let's just move on.
Let's just move. So right, Bournemouth and Spurs. They're the 2 teams this week.
Yeah. So each week we look at 2 teams. We look at 3 players from each team. Ones who you should be looking at in your first, second, and third rounds. Ones that you want to avoid. Maybe not avoid, but certainly not ones that you want to be picking as high as you would think. And then any sort of the wildcard ones where nobody's actually thinking about them for whatever reason. But these are the sort of players who you can actually pick, who you pick up and will win you your draft league. So we're going to kick off with Bournemouth, and we're actually going to go.
I'm breaking news here on the StatrCast. Just to throw caution to the wind for a moment, and I know it's not their week, but Brentford have sold another player, Norgard.
Has he gone to Arsenal?
11 million. He's undergoing a medical.
That's a strange move for that. That doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't either. Are they, if they're also buying Zubamendi, they're not going buying another fucking midfielder. Do you know what that is? Thomas Partey. I'm not going to actually say. Just look that up. Just look up Thomas Partey on Reddit and say no more. But yeah, let his contract go, and he can go off into the distance.
Yeah. That's probably what that is. Yeah. To be fair. Yeah, that's a strange signing, but yeah. Anyway, thankfully we've already done Arsenal and the bluffers that they are. But anyway, we can probably add him into the avoid list, even though we signed him from. But anyway, but yeah, let's start with Bournemouth, and we're actually going to look. I'm going to look at the wild card this time because continuing on, it's actually probably a continuation from the conversation we've been having around new signings. The new signing from Rennes, Adrien Truffert. Such a good name. Yeah, I know. The left back. So first of all, this lad is the direct replacement for Kirkes when he moves on.
12 million, something like that, wasn't it?
£11.4 million is the official deal sheet amount. But if again, you've got to take these stats with a pinch of salt because it was from Rennes and it is League One in France. And the French league is not to the same quality, but. Just to compare him with Kirkes, because he is the replacement, he has double the amount of tackles, successful tackles that Kirkes had last season. He has won the same amount of aerial duels. And doesn't have as many assists. He only had 2 assists and 2 goals last season versus Kirkes. Where Truffert will make your points up is in his defensive side of things. So his tackles, his clearances, all of that kind of dirty stuff. He's not bad going forward. He had as many key passes as Kirkes had last season, 38 versus 36.
Only 2 assists though.
Only 2 assists. So I'm not close enough to League One, so I don't know what way Rennes play. But if you look at things like key passes, runs forward, etc., he's not far behind Kirkes. So as a wild card, he is one to consider again. In later rounds, if he's still there and you need a defender, I would absolutely be looking at it. Your top pick from Bournemouth, though, it's nailed on. It's Semenyo. There's no 2 ways about it. I mean, for a player to at Bournemouth levels to finish in the top 10 overall, 426 points. The numbers he put up last year were Son Heung-min's numbers the previous season for Spurs. That was the level he was at last season. He averaged 11 points per game. He was ever present pretty much, and he only missed 1 game last season. Has similar dispossession numbers to Mohamed Kudus, who we spoke about last week for West Ham. The difference with this lad, he makes up with it in end product. So a lot of the play goes through Semenyo for Bournemouth. But 11 goals, 46 key passes. I don't have his assist number off the top of my head. I think it was 6 or 7. So he does make up for it on that side of the ball, where someone like Kudus doesn't.
I thought that he was very loosely linked with United a few weeks ago, but obviously that's going to die down. But I don't know why he's not linked with anyone else, really.
Liverpool have been floating around him as well. United have been. Newcastle have expressed interest.
There's a few teams who have been sniffing around. I think Newcastle might look at him again now that they've had their Anthony Elanga bid rejected. So they're obviously looking for somebody in that space.
This is what I was about to say. I was like, I reckon that Elanga bid is smoke and mirrors. It's a case of we know we want X, but we're showing our card in terms of what we're willing to spend.
Yeah, so that might be.
They're not going back in. They got rejected for 45, right?
Yeah,
and they basically said we're not going back in. No. So everybody that way, there's that thing of people know they're willing to spend 45, 250 on a winger.
Yeah.
Bournemouth will sell at that price.
Yeah, absolutely, they will. So yeah, Semenyo, if you're looking at anyone for Bournemouth, if he's still there in your kind of late second, early third round, and he might still be, I don't think he doesn't go first round, even though he put up first round numbers last season.
No.
I don't think anybody is gonna.
Is he third to fourth round?
I think he might be late
early third.
Late second, early third round.
I think it'll be very late though. Maybe,
well, I think there's other players there. Like
it does. A lot of it does.
You have Sinistera, Kluivert, Awatra, Evan Nielsen. Like,
yeah. The only thing I would say about Semenyo is he played all but 1 game in the league last season. So even though you have those players who can come in and out, this lad was ever present. So, but I think Dean is right. I think late second, early third round. If he's still there, you've depending on what your needs are in the draft and where your priorities lie, you consider him. And he's certainly the player you take from Bournemouth out of anybody else. The player you'd avoid from Bournemouth, unfortunately, and it kills me to say this, is Ryan Christie. And I think it's because his powers, unfortunately, are starting to wane away. The numbers are just dropping off. And I think that's a combination of age. He'll turn 31 next season. He's been a traditional kind of box-to-box type player. He only played 29 games versus the 37 the previous. Bournemouth have been touted of looking for somebody in midfield to kind of beef that part of them up. I think if they were light anywhere, that's probably where they're light. Albeit, I know at centre back they also need to be as well.
Defensively, they're screwed because Kirkes is obviously
gone, and Huyson have gone.
As Barney as well, PSG.
Yeah, I know that's been discussed at the moment. It hasn't gone through, but yeah, 3 out of 4 gone. Yeah. So they're in trouble at the back.
And their goalkeeper, so 4 out of 5 if you really wanted to be. Basically, avoid the Bournemouth defence like the fucking plague, because if they don't get it right quickly, they're in a relegation battle next year.
Yeah, very much so. And with someone like Christie who plays in midfield, if you're screwed at the back and games are passing him by, and it seems to be that way looking at the stats, he's someone you want to avoid, even though he has been traditionally one of those players who we love, who you pick up in the 8th round and does the business for you for maybe 8, 10 or 12 weeks of the season. But the big thing last season was his yellow cards. So he averaged 1 every 3 games last season, versus which is double what he did the previous. It was 1 every 6 to 7 games last season, was 1 every 3. So he's going to leak you points out the backside as well. So you don't want that. For Bournemouth, you look at Semenyo, Truffert, if he's still there in the later rounds. Christie, you're probably not having him on your draft board at all. And then let's look at Spurs, who we've spoken about for a while. My favourite club at the moment. I'd like to say, just like, fuck Daniel Levy. I think he's just treated Ange badly. But anyway, let's keep going away from that. John, you can say
trend of the summer. I don't care who is the new manager. Fucking fire him.
Yeah, pretty much. So fuck Daniel Levy. The way you say about Arteta and the way Jimmy says about Madrid.
Unless you sign Nathan Collins and everything will be forgiven.
Unless you sign Nathan Collins and everything will be forgiven. Unless Liverpool want to sign Nathan Collins, which is also a rumour. But anyway.
What?
Yeah, that's another rumour that's going on.
Honestly, that'd be fucking brilliant. But anyway, carry on.
Anyway, so your top pick is Porro. Again, if you look at Pedro Porro is your top pick from Spurs based on their current squad. Now, a lot of this is dependent on what Thomas Frank decides to do. If he brings in Collins, then Collins is probably your top pick. If he brings in Mbeumo, then Mbeumo is definitely your top pick from Spurs. But as it stands right now, looking at that team, Pedro.
I think United have Mbeumo.
I think that's probably a done deal at this stage now. I think Mbeumo has come out to say he wants to go to United, but depending on what Spurs do in the market, this could change. But as of right now, looking at what we have to work with, Pedro Porro, if you're looking at Spurs, he is your top pick. Spurs were very, very poor in the season. Very poor last season.
Thomas Frank plays a more defensive game, right? Pedro Porro under Ange was 60 yards further up the fucking pitch than where he's meant to be. So his attacking output off the reservation in terms of crosses, assists. I think with a more defensive manager, his numbers are going to drop.
I thought this as well, right? But if you look at a couple of his defensive, when I delved into it a little bit more, you look at some of his defensive stats and they do stack up. So last season he was number 1 player for clearances last season for Spurs. He had 73 of them. He's solid in the air. He's solid in his successful tackles. There's plenty there to be excited about from a defensive perspective with Porro. I don't think Thomas Frank can afford to go into Spurs and play the way he played at Brentford. I don't think he can play that defensive style of football and look for success. Daniel Levy does not like having those types of managers. Mourinho and Pochettino.
Keeps hiring them, though.
Keeps hiring them for some reason. I have no idea why, but then he keeps firing them as well. So I think... Yeah, exactly. But I think he probably has to look at a different way of playing. So Porro, if you're looking at anybody there, he is the man you need to look at from Spurs.
I think I'm going to disagree with you, Gary. And it might be my own bias, but I think Kulusevski is the man from Spurs. I had him last season.
You've been
and he
drafting him
started-
for years, Dean, haven't you?
I had him last season, and he started, honest to God, at nearly every single game for Spurs, if not every single game last season, bar the odd injury. And I couldn't find the numbers there now, but I'd say he averaged me at least 10 points every game. I think he's your man from Spurs.
So now that Jimmy is not here, I'm going to just have a look and see what his numbers actually were last season. So I did consider, did I consider Kulusevski?
I think Porro wasn't Porro as well injured for a period last season.
And he still ended up in the top 10 defenders. He was
he missed 9 games last season.
Half of the pitch. This is the key thing for me. Under Ange, these guys were given license to attack. The attacking output that he's had for the last 2 years under Ange is going to drop by at least a third. The question is, does he make up the difference of those points in terms of defensive attributes next season?
I think he does. I mean, if you look at his output, so 49 tackles won, which was number 2 for Spurs overall. Clearances, as I said, he was number 1. Interceptions, 36, which puts him at number 3. So he has the ability to do that, to do the defensive stuff. I think he's still given a bit of license going forward because I think Frank knows that he has that ability, and if you take that away from him, he's going to lose an element of the overall plan.
I think we agree to disagree on that one because I think me and Dean would both be of the opinion of Kulusevski. But this is the GVC for a reason, right?
Yeah, no. Kulusevski is a solid pick. The reason I took Porro over him was last season, Kulusevski averaged 7.6 points per game. Little bit of a drop off, but to be fair, he is a very, very good pick. Spurs are actually one of these teams where there's 2 or 3 players you kind of look at and go, actually, yeah, maybe I'll consider him. And Kulusevski would probably be one of them as well.
The avoid is the most obvious thing you're going to see. Like, for me, the avoid. Let me guess. Is your avoid Mickey Van de Ven by any chance?
No, it's not.
Fuck off. It should be.
No, it's not.
He's big, he's beautiful, he's perennially broken.
Yeah, but I think it's so obvious that he can't be. Like, I mean...
No, because someone falls for him because it's like, look at him. He's big. He's class. He's genuinely a world-class centre-back. But
he is, but he's got glass legs.
Yeah.
He's got glass legs. Take a guess.
Young and Son?
No. He was, and then I changed my mind. He was my number 1. He was my avoid. And then he changed, and then I changed my mind because... The reason I changed my mind was when I actually looked at...
Oh, listen to this. He played for Everton, didn't he? It's Richarlison.
No, it's not Richarlison. It's the other one. It's Solanke. It's Solanke.
Right.
It's yeah. So when I said at the start, these are players that you don't want to necessarily avoid, but you certainly don't want to be looking at Solanke in the top 3 rounds. Yeah. Traditionally, for a Spurs centre forward, that's probably where you're looking for, But if you look at the systems that Thomas Frank played last season, up front, he likes his players out wide to be quick, fast, strong. Solanke is not that. Solanke is not quick. He is a box centre forward.
Back to goal type guy.
Back to goal, hold the ball up, etc., etc. Will he fit that sort of mold? Again, I've said it there. We don't know what sort of system Frank is actually going to bring in. So. A lot of this is speculation, but if he plays a similar system attacking-wise for Brentford, then Solanke's going to struggle. He only scored 9 goals as well, which was a poor return. So, yeah, you don't want to be looking at Solanke. Unless he's there round 8, round 9, then you take a punt at him. You certainly don't look at him in the top 5.
So you're saying pick Porro.
You're picking Porro, you're avoiding Solanke. Your wild card, though, Dean, you were right, is Son. Right? And there's a bit of logic behind this because we've slated Son a little bit on this podcast where he's missing his best mate, Harry Kane, because Harry's living it up in Germany. Last season, he dropped off. So previous to that, he was doing 12 to 13 points a game in 23-24. 11 points the previous season to that. He's been first round choice a couple of times in our draft league. You don't fall for that. And I don't think anyone will fall for that. I think Son probably drops into round 4. And then you take...
Round 4 or 5, worth it at
round 4, round 5. You take him every day of the week.
My wild card is Lucas Bergvall.
I don't know. I thought I read there somewhere during the week that Thomas Frank was maybe thinking of phasing Son out just to kind of bring in, like a new generation and to kind of move on from him.
I don't think he does that.
I wouldn't be so keen. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think he does that next season. He probably keeps him in there as a transition player. He's fast. He's strong. He fits that mold of what Thomas Frank likes in his forward line.
Do you think he starts most games next season?
I think he starts getting most games in the first 10 weeks, and at that stage, if he's not doing the business,
4 pick then?
I think he's a round 4 pick. I think he's a round 4 to 5, round 4, round 5 pick.
I think maybe 5.
This is all pending what Spurs do over the next month. Once Frank sees under the table and they start, and he actually looks at the squad, and they make 1 or 2 moves, then I think Spurs are one of these sides that they have a lot of work to do this summer. I would be saying personally, Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall would have been my 2 wildcards. 2 fellas dropped in the deep end at young age last year. Swam, in fairness to them, and I think that season will do them nothing but good in terms of what they're going to do this year. So those would have been my picks. But anyway, Guy, you're saying pick Por, avoid Solanke, and wildcard is Sonny.
Yes.
Cool.
That's the one thing.
I'm not going to lie, boys. This has been a very productive night. We have looked at a lot of numbers. We've looked at a lot of players. I think I've had enough for today. I think I've done what y'all.
I think so as well. I think the only thing to say is make sure that you're signing up, following us on all of the different channels. John, if you want to tell us where we can find all of the good stuff.
Are we going to do? I'm going to speed run this. Ready?
Yep.
We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. We are on every single fucking social media platform that is in existence. We're even on Blue Sky. We're StatrCast.com. Go over to the website, join the waiting list. The game is getting close. We are a few weeks out. We'll be ready for the new Premier League season. So you keep your eye out. If you haven't yet organized your draft night, now is the time to bitch and moan at your group of friends. Get the 8 to 15 guys and gals that you're going to play with next year, and pick a night. Get ready to rumble, because StatrDraft.com is coming to a phone near you. Whoop. I think I'm going to have to do that movie voice next week, just off camera, and be like, "Once upon a time, there was a game that Jimmy never won."
I think you need to practice that more.
I will. I'll be back next week, and I'm going to have a really, really, really sexy intro for the GVC. Anyway, on that note, peace out. We's done.
Talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week, boys. Have a good one.